Sydney, Australia has had its fair share of new public transport proposals over the years. And of course, most of these grand dreams and schemes never get built. But every once in a while, they actually do. Like Sydney's CBD and Southwest Metro and Parramatta's light rail line. So let's take a look at what could be next. Not with railways or metros, but with light rail. Recently, we published a video of ALTRAC's proposal for Sydney's 6th light rail line. And tucked away in that document was a map showing possible lines beyond that Parramatta Road to Green Square line. And that map really caught my interest. So in today's video, we'll explore these proposals and do a bit of speculation on where else light rail could expand. I'm Marty, and welcome to BackTracks. While many of these new lines we talk about in this video may never be built, some could and probably some should. And it's worth noting that the map in ALTRAC's document wasn't that detailed, so I've tried to match where I think the lines would go and recreated the map using BackTrack styling. So let's look at each of the proposed lines one by one. I don't think many would argue that the first line proposed, building a line along Oxford Street through to Bondi Junction and then down to Bondi Beach, is probably one of the most obvious and one of the ones most talked about over the decades. The proposed line starts at Elizabeth Street near Central and then runs up Wentworth Avenue and on to Oxford Street. Then it would head up Oxford Street, past Taylor Square, past Paddington, through Wallara and then into Bondi Junction. And this actually follows the exact route of Sydney's arguably most famous original tram line, the Bondi line. Now that original line opened way back in 1884 as a steam tramway to Bondi. So as mentioned, the proposed route from ALTRAC covers the same path right up into Bondi Junction. But from that point, it's quite different. Instead of going along Bondi Road, and then it did a very unusual dogleg through Denham and Dudley Streets and onto Campbell Parade, the new line is proposed to go along Old Southhead Road, then turn into O'Brien Street and then into Hall Street, stopping at Bondi Beach without going right out onto Campbell Parade. From the proposal, it looks like the stop is right outside Ravisi's restaurant and bar. The next proposal is an extension to the existing Randwick L2 light rail line down to Coogee Beach. Now for me, when I first looked at it, this one wasn't immediately obvious. Not to say trams to Coogee are a bad idea. Trams went to Coogee Beach for nearly 77 years, but along a slightly different route. Trams actually wound down the hill from Hill Street Terminus and then ran down Peruse Road, St Paul Street, Carr Street, Havelock Street, through its own reservation, and it entered Coogee Beach from the south, running north-south along Arden Street, before terminating at a balloon loop in Dolphin Street, just quite near the Coogee Pavilion Hotel. That line closed in October 1960. In the ALTRAC proposal, the line leaves the current terminus at High Street, Randwick, and literally just goes straight down Coogee Bay Road to Coogee Beach. Coogee is really popular with locals and tourists, so I think the line would be pretty well frequented. But one major drawback is how narrow Coogee Bay Road gets towards the beach. So I imagine they may stop it actually one block short of the beach, or otherwise the final part of Coogee Bay Road is going to lose all its parking space and would become more pedestrian friendly, but I think it'd probably lose some of its vibrancy. The next is another extension to an existing light rail line. There's a bit of a pattern coming here because it also possibly would follow along the former tram line. And that is extending the line from Juniors Kingsford through to Maroubra Junction. For me, this is really a no-brainer. They actually built a little extension to the track in anticipation of this line being extended. The original line down Anzac Parade was built in stages from 1900 to 1902, and it was the final line to close of the original network in February 1961. The alignment would basically follow the former tram route, which is a reservation in the middle of Anzac Parade. It was like it was built for trams. So I think it would be pretty easy to build and would be highly patronised, as Maroubra Junction is a very busy centre. So let's leave the eastern part of the city and head to the west. There's a number of interesting proposals contained in that ALTRAC map. The first is an extension on a yet to be built L6 line, and that is extending from Taberner's Hill, which I've been calling the L6 line, right through along Parramatta Road to the west to Strathfield Railway Station. Back before the West Connects freeways were built underground, it would have been impossible to build anything along Parramatta Road, being one of the busiest roads in Sydney. But since then, there's been a significant reduction of traffic along Parramatta Road, which means lanes could be taken up by a new light rail line. One suggestion, and maybe more realistic, instead of going to Strathfield, the line could actually head north and connect with the new Metro West railway station at 5 Dock. So that would provide a more useful connection to the huge amount of development that is going on there. Now, the next proposal is, I guess, a very romantic one for tram lovers in Sydney. But I'm going to put it out there, tell them they're dreaming. I don't see this one ever being built, and that is a line back onto the Balmain peninsula. The first steam tram ran to Darling Street in Balmain in 1892, and 10 years later the service was electrified. The last tram ran to Balmain in 1958, and the map for the new proposed line suggests it would run along Anzac Bridge, but I can't see that happening. But perhaps it could go along a newly rebuilt Glebe Island Bridge, a bridge that once had trams running over it. The map seems to suggest that the line runs along Robert Street, along White Bay, and then up a strip of parkland called Hymes Street Reserve. Then along Darling Street, and then it would continue right along Darling Street, crossing over Victoria Road, onto Balmain Road and Perry Street to meet up with the L1 line at Leichhardt North, basically Lilyfield. And the final new proposal, a line that follows the former Ryde railway line along Victoria Road, an area not well serviced by rail transport, and a very long growth corridor connecting Drummoyne, Gladesville and Ryde out to Melrose Park. The original line to West Ryde Railway Station was the longest in the Sydney system, and the ALTRAC proposal suggests that the line could go all the way to Melrose Park, which provides an intriguing opportunity that the light rail line could actually connect up with the Parramatta Light Rail System, Stage 2, which is also going to Melrose Park. I'm not suggesting that they'd be through running, but at least there would be a great opportunity for an interchange, perhaps at Melrose Park, or even better down near Rydal Wharf, where there is a large open space that could be used for a very important interchange. And this is where we deviate from the ALTRAC proposal, where we come up with a few of our own thoughts and builds on their proposal. And this suggestion was raised by quite a number of people in the comment section, and that is a line could be rebuilt up Elizabeth Street to provide an alternative route through the city. As I make the video, actually, the George Street line was closed because of some issues with the overhead wiring. And this line up Elizabeth Street could connect with the new mega Martin Place Hunter Street metro station and ultimately be a second route down to Circular Quay. And as we're making things up here, perhaps the existing L1 line could connect up with the proposed Green Square line. And both could use the shorter style trams because of their tight topography. The T2 line could be rerouted to run up Elizabeth Street, while T3 could continue up George. And the Parramatta line, the L6 line, could run up George Street. And what this does is provide additional capacity. And the other benefit is that there will be now two routes through the city. Either one could be used if the other one is blocked. Well, there you have it, a view of possible future light rail lines in Sydney. And because it was from ALTRAC, thank you, it focused mostly on the eastern part of Sydney. Another time, we should look at possible future light rail lines in the western half of the city. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave some comments on what else you'd like BackTracks to cover. Thanks and see you later.